Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Wrenching with Rob. So today we're going to go through and talk about some of the stuff that we've been working on here in the garage, mainly these Jeeps and things like that you saw in the first episode. We actually had another episode, but it got corrupted or erased or something crazy like that, and it was probably long and boring anyways. So anyway, walk with me here. We're going to talk about what's been happening here in the last week, or at least since the last episode that we had. So anyway, as you can see, the motor is in the exact same spot, I believe. I may have moved it. I think I moved it from over there, made it over here, but I haven't touched it. Oh look, I touched it. That's about as much as this thing has. Maybe it just needs some love, like that kind of love. I don't know. Probably doesn't work. So anyway, all right. We'll go over here. Duck, look out for this huge body lift we've got on this 87. And yes, the Model A is uncovered because I had it running a little bit ago. Still runs. We'll go over here to the 46. So, still only have a couple of shocks on it. The main thing we've been working on here on this is the front end. Started off as just wheel cylinders and brakes, because when I was a youngin', probably around 9 or 10 years old, I attempted, and I stress attempt, to put brakes into it because the wheel cylinders were pouring out so bad that they wouldn't hold any fluid. So this is the original backing plate right here. And at the time, all I did is really take the caps off and buy wheel cylinder kits. And that used to be a thing where you'd replace the boots on the end and hone out the cylinders, and you'd put new pistons inside a new spring, and then you've got a rebuild. But now they're so cheap, it's easier just to buy a new one. So I worked on another axle at one time and then decided not to use it. So what I did is I took it all apart and painted it all up. So now we got it in go fast mode, with, or at least it'll look like it goes fast with all this paint on here. So eventually what I'll do is, when we get a little bit further along, is take these brake shoes here and lay them in here along with their eccentrics and things like that, so that they are adjustable. And if you notice, one shoe here is a little bit longer, whereas this one goes all the way up to the top of the backing plate, and this one only goes a portion of it. And I can't remember which one is primary and secondary, but at least that's how they're called. I believe the longer one is the primary and the shorter one is the secondary, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But the point of the story is, when I originally put these together, I didn't know that. So consequently, these are the ones that came off of it on this side. And if you notice, both of them are exactly the same length. So I put both primaries or both secondaries on one side, and then the opposite, of course, is on the passenger side. So when we took it apart, when I went to go take the wheel off, I noticed that the knuckle being here, I could move it like this. So like on modern day vehicles, they'll have A-arms and ball joints and things like this, whereas this thing has bearings in here and here. So they were either out of adjustment or worn out. It is a 46, so it's probably worn out. Anyway, I took it all apart, ordered new cups and bearings, smashed them in there, and I can't finish it because unfortunately I do not have a push-pull gauge, and you're supposed to have anywhere, I think, between somewhere between 10 and 16 foot-pounds of running preload torque on this, and until I get that, I can't really check it and put the rest of it back together. But I'm also doing the seals on the backside, as this is a closed knuckle, or closed, I forgot what they call it, open U-joint or closed U-joint. Anyway, that's what they came off with, and the seals back there have to be replaced. So we've got new wheel cylinders, new brake shoes, new seals, and we're going through and cleaning everything up. I've already attempted to replace the drum over here on the hub, but unfortunately the drum that I bought is the wrong one. So we'll have to press these studs back in here. All right, so that's what's going on in this one. So we also went through and put a new master cylinder on there, as the new master cylinders are way cheaper than putting the, or going through and putting a kit in the old one. And I think the old one was froze up anyway. I went through and took my pedals, clutch pedal and brake pedal off of my other frame and installed them in here. I left the cotter pins long now so I can take them back apart and adjust them hopefully in the future. And if you look over here, I've got a new T-fitting here on the master cylinder, a new brake light switch, and then also, you can just barely see it, but it is a new brake line going to the rear. It's up underneath this channel, and it connects to a new flex line back here. And then if you swap all the way around, this brake line here in the front is new, along with this new flex hose. And then I also started taking apart my, I took my cover off because I need to pop new grease seals in, but I noticed that, come over here that I got quite a bit of play here in my ring and pinion here. So I do have free floating hubs, and I think as much as I'm going to drive this thing, I'm probably will let it go. Normally you would never want to let that go, especially on a rear end, because eventually it's going to eat itself up and make you very angry. But haven't done anything with the back because I'm still waiting on the brake lines to come in. Evidently it went on back order. These are the new seals for the knuckle on the front. These rubber looking things and the felt. I'll probably put those in after I can finish on the knuckles here. Haven't touched the gas tank because it smells really bad, and I don't want to mess with it right now. It's one of those things that's really easy to put off because 7-year-old gas really smells bad. And those of you that know what 7-year-old gas smells like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That is the front drive shaft, at least on the driver's side. It is full of nasty old grease and crap like that, so I just kind of left it set. So now we'll wander out here. Remember to duck. So on the 87, yes, we put paint on it because paint equals go fast. Doesn't it look like it'll go faster anyway? Yeah. We've replaced the flex line here from the frame down to the rear end, and I've put new brake lines on both sides to accompany both new wheel cylinders and new brake shoes on this, because stopping is the name of the game when you have something like this, especially if we're going to sell it. So in the last video, I think we talked about how these Jeeps have a tendency to hold water and rust out the bottom of the frame, and this one was no exception. So this portion down here where the transmission / skid plate bolts on was completely tore up. All of the inserts were twisted out. So again, I'm not sponsored by Safety Cap, but they are the ones that provided or we purchased these replacements. I don't even know what they call them. It's just a frame fix replacement. Anyway, it has welded in inserts, it encapsulates the frame, and it's all welded in, as you can see. And again, I put the old Go Fast paint on there, and really you can't tell unless you know what you're looking for. So now we're in the process of painting the front end, making it go faster, and replacing the brake lines, because we've got quite a few of areas like this where there's probably supposed to be one of them spinny things on there, and there is not. So the proportioner valve is not very happy right now. But as you can see, we have one new brake line on there, one new flex line. Nice crusty rotor there, but it's got good brake pads, so score there. And I'm working on the passenger side flex line, and then I will install the brake line that goes all the way across. That's another crazy one there. Instead of going down to the axle and going across, it goes across the frame. I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess it depends on how you look at it. So there's my other Jeep frame. I'm slowly robbing parts off of it. I'm afraid that if I got rid of it, I would need something off of it and kick myself. So I don't know what to do with it anyway. So what we'll do is come over here. I'm going to finish installing this flex line here. Wherever the rest of my parts have gone, here we go. So when installing these flex lines, especially these banjo or B fittings as we used to call them, make sure of a couple of things. First of all, that you use 2 copper crush washers, and my washers look a little weird because I had it installed on the wrong side. Hopefully it holds. The part numbers I thought were the same, but when I went to go put them in there, it didn't quite work out. So if you look at this part number right here, this is a kit from Rock Auto. It's 220346, and the left side is 220356. Yeah, if you're not paying attention, you would assume that they're both the same number. So of course, 50-50 chance, and I got it wrong. I put the passenger side, or attempted to put the passenger side on the driver's side, and the only difference between these two things is this little offset hole here to the left is on the other side. And of course, I got it backwards. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Make sure that if you install these things, you put a copper crush washer on both sides. And then also, make sure that if you replace them, that you look at what you took them off of. Sometimes these things have a tendency to stick onto, because of course they're crushed in there, to whatever you took them off of, and you don't want to double stack them. You know, brake lines are pretty important when it comes to stopping. So anyway, what I'm going to do is try to pre-orientate this thing up here like this, so I see how it's going to attach, and I think I put my bolt through the right way. I will put my crush washer on there, even though it's already been a little crushed. Hopefully it holds. I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed and probably keep the old ones, or get into the stash and put some new ones in there. I just have to hunt them down. So started it through, and of course it's going to fight, as all things typically do. We'll put some little spinny on this. And the nice thing about this Jeep is everything is either righty-tighty or lefty-loosey, unlike the 46, where it seems like everything on the driver's side, at least to do with the wheels, is backwards. Left-hand thread. So that's going to stick in there, into that hole. Wow, these are pretty tight. May have to, there's no engine and transmission in this thing, so hopefully that's the issue of why these are so tight. There's my bolt. I tried to run. So let's see if I can get that thing started in there. It's under a lot of tension. I think what we'll do is we'll put this in there for now, and before we get rid of this thing, we'll put some longer brake lines on this. I think these shackles on the front have been, or at least they're longer, and so it has had some type of a lift. And as far as I know, there isn't that many Torex style bolts in this thing, but this is definitely one of them. And that would really be an unhappy thing if you went to go take these out and didn't have any of these things. So we'll crank that in there. That's a good sign, I guess. And we'll smoke down this brake line, and it will be installed. So let's make sure I turn it the right direction after I just got done talking about that. Although it is all kind of metric here. So hopefully that thing holds. So we talked about open steering knuckle versus closed. This one has an open. If you look down in here, you can actually see the U-joint right here. On my 46, that's all closed up, and it has grease in there, and it has a seal, a very complicated seal, or at least it seems like it because it wants to leak. So this one should be pretty much done. Let's see if I can rotate this wheel back around. And then we'll at least lay out that brake line that goes all the way across, and that'll probably be a wrap for today. So let me get the line and I'll be right back. All right, so I got the line, I think, laid out, and it says it's the correct one, so we'll see how that goes. I'm going to attempt to orientate it, and it's a good idea to orientate these things because when they ship them, they do some crazy bending with them to make them fit, and they usually try to indicate that like this. It says shipping bend, so that you can ship it into a smaller box. Otherwise it would be all crazy big. So I've bent them out and laid it out, and like I said, I think that's pretty much going to be a wrap for today. What we're going to do next time is hopefully finish the braking system on this, install the engine and the transmission, or we'll keep on pressing away on the or pressing forward on the 46 and attempt to get that monster back in some sort of a Jeep fashion here anyway, looking like a Jeep instead of just a frame. I don't know which one's going to beat us. Well, the 87 has a body, whereas the 46 is not very happy at all. But I want to thank you guys for actually paying attention and watching me do this kind of stuff. Eventually we'll get into a little bit more how-to, or at least I'll just keep pressing away and you can watch me work, and then you can say, well, I'm glad I'm not doing that. Or you can say something in the nature of, man, I would have never done something like that. Anyway, hope I can keep you entertained, and thanks for hanging out and wrenching with Rob.